main point of the documentary is to show the scale of fragmentation from the most well-known cases to specifically Knoxville. Fragmentation occurs on a global scale from the Amazon rainforest to some of the most localized areas. As you can observe in this picture of Africa, if habitat fragmentation isn't slowed, this is what satellite views of the Congo will resemble. A loose definition of habitat fragmentation is a disruption of a free-growing continuous forest by either man-made or geological events. As you can see in this segment, it can happen from clear-cutting forest and/or developing a city, usually described as urbanization. It also affects predator-prey dynamics because the amount of patches and the size of the patches affects the compositions of the ecosystems, which can make it uninhabitable for predators and prey alike. Fragmentation also occurs naturally, and it occurred even before humans in the form of fires, geological events such as floods, earthquakes, and volcano eruptions. Usually fragments are referred to as patches and can have limited diversity of both plant and animal life because of constraints we apply to. So now I'd like to go into more detail about the consequences of habitat fragmentation that are very detrimental to some populations, especially if the plants require a very specific set of factors to be able to thrive. Some of these sensitive plants have little or no chance of persisting with humans interacting at all with their habitats. Plants that have small scattered populations are extremely susceptible to the consequences of fragmentation because a lack of genetic variation can lead to elevated inbreeding and extremely reduced gene flow, ultimately making them extremely susceptible to disease and can lead to extinction of entire populations. It also affects plants that are reliant on a certain type of pollinators, such as birds and other small mammals, and even some insects. With the lack of quality and size of land to inhabit and find food, some animals may move from the patch and leave the plant with no way to reproduce, which can also lead to mass extinctions of populations. It also affects animals that can't survive in small patches. They either move, and if they are trapped in the patch, they will die without human intervention. It also affects the predator-prey dynamics of the population because the loss of one of the predators or prey can lead to a drastic effect on the other, which can throw an entire ecosystem out of proportions. If an apex predator becomes extinct from an ecosystem, the herbivores will eat the plant matter uncontrollably without a regulating predator, which also affects the plant community. All of these factors can lead to a decline in the overall plant population that is present in a patch. Now I would like to talk about the difference between habitat fragmentation, habitat destruction, and habitat alternation. Habitat destruction is defined as the elimination of a plant or animal's habitat completely. For example, a habitat containing a certain genotype of plant found nowhere else will be destroyed if it's taken and turned into an agricultural field. It loses all the function or purpose of being a forest, old field, or wetland. This is a picture of deforestation that is taking place in the Amazon. They are clear-cutting the rainforest to primarily use it as agricultural land to support the growing population in Brazil. Habitat alteration is another term that can be misconceived. It is defined as changes that don't physically affect the land, but it changes it functionally. For example, introducing cattle to a small river or pond. Turning the pond that could have been a natural habitat for a certain species of fish is now functionally changed. Fragmentation is just the breakup of suitable habitat into smaller and smaller patches over a period of time, but the plant or animal can still persist if the patch is large enough and has enough resources to survive. There are also some strategies being developed to help maintain some habitats throughout the world. One of the most important attempts that is being made is called urban planning. Urban planning is usually a joint operation being undertaken in cities everywhere between landscape architectures and city councils to plan cities around pristine habitats to help maintain their original biodiversity, although the effects on some of the plants and animals are still felt. In this picture, you can see New York City is one of the best examples of fragmentation, and it is also a photo of an attempt of urban planning. This is an aerial view of another example of urban planning. This example is staged around a park and is a plan of a neighborhood. The neighborhood is specifically planned around a pre-existing environment. Here is yet another example of a larger city complete with all of the buildings, with trees and parks included. This, along with other conservation attempts, are being made to preserve not only the patches of land that are suitable for endangered species, but also plots, such as national parks. Human intervention is another way that we can responsibly develop land by taking populations of certain plants and animals and finding new, suitable habitats for them. However, with any plant or animal relocation, repercussions from these can be very drastic and very unpredictable. And instead of helping a bad situation, we cause another extinction of a sensitive species by being outcompeted by our new introduced species. So research and time needed to be invested before developing. This is a picture of the Everglades, which is one of the best examples of fragmentation. With roads crisscrossing the Everglades and separating large tracts of lands from each other, it also serves as barriers to keep populations of plants and animals from moving from one place to another. Here is another great example of a human-made habitat fragmentation. This is a picture of the Great Wall of China, and for around 2,000 years, it has separated plant and animal populations. Most of the time when we hear about habitat fragmentation or deforestation, it's happening in some place far away, as I show in this next video. This is a time-lapse video taken from the Amazon rainforest from NASA satellites. It shows the time period from 1975 to 2011. video I'm about to show should bring the point a little bit closer to home. It is a collection of pictures taken from Gatlinburg overlooking the city. As you can see in the video, there's miles and miles of forest until the landscape is dotted by hotels in the strip of Gatlinburg. This is a perfect example of habitat fragmentation that is happening every day in our backyards. And to wrap it all up, habitat fragmentation is a serious problem that is affecting the biodiversity of our planet daily. It is also becoming more of a problem as the population of humans increases. With the increase of the population, more cities are being built and more forests are being cut down to make room for agricultural lands that will be used to support such a large population. But with the growing and advancing population, there is a growing need to preserve our most important assets. National parks are obtaining more resources, and we are beginning to hopefully lessen our footprint on these largely unchanged areas, and effective strategies are being made to coexist with the numerous plants and animals of the world. Habitat fragmentation occurs everywhere, from the forests in China and Brazil to East Tennessee. This documentary hopefully gave you all a glimpse into it and some information about the consequences and what is trying to be done to preserve our world. Thank you all for watching.